Changing hearing aids at no cost. And you don't need to visit the doctor to get them. They ship right to your home and come with lifetime remote support. Convenient, right?
Heck yeah! Heck yeah! Heck yeah!
Eargo 5 is here, our latest device that allows you to personalize your hearing experience. Get yours today. And if you're an active or retired federal employee, you may qualify to get Eargo at no cost to you.
I'm Ryan Nobles on Capitol Hill, and this is CNN.
President Biden speaking at the United Nations tomorrow, just as a couple of global headlines have some questioning U.S. leadership in the world. France just pulled its ambassador from Washington, angry about a U.S. deal to give Australia nuclear-powered submarines to counter China. And in Afghanistan, the Pentagon now admits that it killed an aid worker and 7 children and 2 other civilians in a drone strike in Kabul during the U.S. troop withdrawal last month. Joining me now is Jim Sciutto, who is our anchor here at CNN, and of course our chief national security correspondent as well. You know, these are challenges for sure that the Biden administration is facing, and both of them in a way are kind of wrapped up in this pivot to China, getting out of Afghanistan to try to focus more on China and Russia, as well as trying to counter Russia with this commitment to Australia over France. But it hasn't been graceful.
It has not been graceful. And listen, you see right next to each other 2 events that created real diplomatic problems for them. The withdrawal, the summary withdrawal from Afghanistan, which before this drone strike, of course, upset U.S. allies, that they didn't get a lot of warning, even for getting their own citizens out. And now this nuclear deal, which makes sense in the bigger picture, but clearly has also upset an ally in France. But why is the Biden administration doing it? They've been very public about this, to say, end the endless wars in the Middle East. We've been wasting a lot of resources there. The real challenge is China. China is our global challenger economically, politically, militarily, etc. And by the way, if you look at it, it's a really significant move. The U.S. has shared nuclear submarine technology with one ally in the last 70 years, and that's Britain. And that was to counter the USSR during the depths of the Cold War. So to share this with an ally as far afield as Australia in the Asia Pacific to counter China just shows exactly how seriously the U.S. is taking China's rise in Asia and demonstrating it hopes we're here to stay.
Let's talk about the UNGA, or UNGA, as it's affectionately called. Of course, we're going to hear from President Biden. We're also going to hear from Brazil's President Bolsonaro. He's known as Brazil's Trump. He's actually, though unlike Trump, he is proudly unvaccinated, and he's supposed to be vaccinated by the rules at the General Assembly, but his plan right now is to go up to that lectern and speak. How do you see this playing out?
Well, listen, big picture, first of all, Bolsonaro, I mean, he's trying to replicate January 6th, but successfully in his own country. A year out from elections there, he's making bones about, it's going to be election fraud, here's what we have to do to prevent that, etc. Where have you heard that all before? Where are you still hearing that today? Here inside this country. So he is a dangerous figure in Brazilian politics and to Brazilian democracy. He has also been dangerous to Brazil because he was a COVID denier, right, for many years. It's not that serious, even as people were being buried by the thousands, right? And even as he got it himself. So this will be a challenge. What does the UN do? Do they block him at the door? But it's also a challenge for Biden because based on what we were just discussing, the withdrawal from Afghanistan, questions about U.S. leadership, and so on, how does he then explain America's role in the world? What is our role going forward? Our understanding is he's going to say we need collective cooperation to meet the challenges of climate change, to meet the challenges of authoritarianism, etc. The question is, does he have credible leadership to do that for U.S. adversaries, China and Russia? Do they respect that leadership? But also U.S. allies. Are those alliances strong with Europe, with Asia? This is the test.
Look, he has a lot of damage to undo, and I think allies expected that he was going to do so a little more perfectly because he has very little wiggle room as we are watching the General Assembly. Jim Sciutto, thank you so much. Thank you.
CNN is now reporting that just seconds before a deadly drone strike in Afghanistan on August 29th, the CIA warned the U.S. military that civilians could be injured or killed. 3 sources familiar with the situation tell CNN that the warning also said children could be inside the targeted vehicle. It was too late. 10 civilians were killed, including 7 children. A U.S. military investigation found no terrorists are known to have been inside the car. And despite that warning, the administration justified the strikes as necessary for weeks afterward. Immediately after the strike, U.S. CENTCOM said it had eliminated an imminent ISIS-K threat, cited significant secondary explosions as evidence of a substantial amount of explosive material. It also said there were not indications of any civilian casualties at the time. Multiple news outlets, including CNN, spoke to neighbors at the scene immediately after the strike. Those neighbors said children had been killed. CENTCOM quickly revised their statement, acknowledging reports of civilian casualties. It suggested a large amount of explosive material in the car could have caused them. Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby still justified the strike as necessary.
Nobody wants to see that happen. But you know what else we didn't want to see happen? We didn't want to see happen what we believe to be a very real, a very specific, and a very imminent threat to the Hamid Karzai International Airport.
Army Major General William Taylor cited a secondary explosion to claim that the car contained explosives and posed an imminent threat.
We know that, as I said earlier, there was a secondary explosion that assessed that what was there was going to be used in a high-profile attack.
That claim was repeated multiple times in the days ahead, and not just by the Pentagon.
We are investigating and assessing even today to try to learn more about the after effects of the secondary explosions from when that vehicle was hit. And we know there were secondary explosions of a significant size.
The White House also.
I will note that in CENTCOM's statement just 2 nights ago, they made clear that their assessment was that there was the vehicle that was the target also had explosives in it, and those explosives may have also led to an impact on the ground.
We also heard about the secondary explosions again later that week in a claim by Joint Chiefs Chairman General Mark Milley, who stood by the need for the strike.
We had very good intelligence that ISIS-K was preparing a specific type vehicle at a specific type location. Because there were secondary explosions, there's a reasonable conclusion to be made that there was explosives in that vehicle. We know from a variety of other means that at least one of those people that were killed was an ISIS facilitator. So were there others killed? Yes, there are others killed. Who they are, we don't know. We'll try to sort through all that. At this point, we think that the procedures were correctly followed and it was a righteous strike.
You heard right there, Milley insisted at least one of the people killed was an ISIS-K facilitator, as did White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki.
Can you address those concerns and speak to whether these drone strikes mean an extension of the war?
The strikes that killed ISIS-K terrorists?
And the possibility of more. President Biden yesterday said that this is not over.
Well, if anybody wants to convey they don't think that we should kill ISIS-K terrorists and kill the people who killed 13 members of our military, then the president's happy to have that debate. Go ahead.
To be fair, Psaki was talking about multiple drone strikes, including one from August 27th, which is said to have killed ISIS-K militants. She went on to say this.
I will say that the United States takes the threat of civilian casualties incredibly seriously. We do everything we can to prevent civilian casualties. That will continue.
Just a week later, multiple news outlets, including CNN, reported that the driver of the car that was targeted was not a terrorist. He was Zamare Ahmadi, an aid worker with an American NGO. The suspicious behavior that U.S. military intelligence said linked him to potential ISIS plotting, much of it was caught by surveillance camera, with colleagues describing it as innocent, filling plastic containers with water because the running water was off at this house. But when the Pentagon was asked about the attack again.
About 10 days ago, Secretary Austin heard General Milley refer to the drone strike as a righteous strike. Did he share the general's assessment at that point, and then have a follow-up?
I think the Secretary already spoke about the need that we had to protect our people at the airport. The department has talked about the fact that this strike prevented an imminent attack on those people, and I think nothing's changed about that view at this point. I have nothing to to speak today that alters the view. CENTCOM is conducting their assessment, and I think we need to let them finish that work, and then we'll be as transparent as we can at the end of it.
By the very next day, Secretary of State Blinken was tempering that response.
The administration is, of course, reviewing that strike, and I'm sure that a full assessment will be forthcoming.
So you don't know if it was an aid worker or an ISIS-K operative?
I can't speak to that, and I can't speak to that in this setting in any event.
So you don't know or won't tell us?
I don't know because we're reviewing it.
And when the White House was asked if the president takes responsibility for any innocent people who were killed,
And the United States takes incredibly seriously our role in preventing civilian casualties whenever we possibly can. So I'm going to let that play out. The president also takes that responsibility incredibly seriously. We'll let that conclude, and then I'm sure we'll have more to say.
He doesn't know the answer, I guess, right?
Well, that's why there's an investigation to determine what happened and make some conclusions.
on Friday, that investigation and its conclusions were revealed. Defense Secretary Austin apologized, as did the CENTCOM Commander General Kenneth McKenzie Jr., and claims about a secondary explosion. A military official familiar with the investigation said that after reviewing footage from infrared sensors, they'd no longer characterize this as an explosion. Instead, it was more of a flare-up. All of the apologies, of course, that are being offered by the administration mean very little to this family. This is the family of aid worker Zamari Ahmadi and of those children that the CIA specifically warned about. They spoke to CNN's Nick Robertson.
Can you forgive them? Maybe. But how should I do? You know that I lost my family. That to return them back for us. It's impossible. It's impossible. No one able to return them back.
A family destroyed and their loved one accused of associating with a terrorist group, and an intelligence warning that we are just hearing about now. The family of an unvaccinated man who died of COVID claims that he was the victim of the misinformation that he heard watching on videos. The family will join us next.
And a short time ago, Pfizer released the first data on its vaccines in children as young as 5. More on CNN coming up.
That was fun.
Alexa, play our dance playlist.
Your playlist, dance. Alexa, turn on the living room lights. Turning on lights.
Alexa, can you pause time?
Let's just enjoy the moment.
Hurry in for exceptional offers on the new BMW X3 with Alexa built in.
Have like 40 years of data. That's incredibly valuable.
I don't know.
When do we introduce Sriracha?
Not soon enough.
Exactly. These are our sales by product, by region, set against evolving demographics. You can actually see taste trends.
Since when can we do that?
Since we started working with BDO.
People who know BDO.
Without personal capital, there's absolutely no way we would have had the financial confidence to live the life that we're living.
Working with our advisor at Personal Capital, we were able to make that leap.
Start today at personalcapital.com. It's only a matter of time until your check engine light comes on, or worse yet, your car needs repair. That could mean a big surprise auto repair bill. Those repairs are more expensive than ever. A new engine can be over $5,000. A new transmission over $4,000. That's why it's so important you call CarShield today. CarShield is the #1 auto protection company in the country.
I like CarShield because they were reliable, they were affordable, and they were trustworthy.
Well, I think everybody should have CarShield. Once your manufacturer's warranty is expired, there's just no big bills. If we needed repairs, CarShield was there for us.
Now it's your turn to get the peace of mind that comes with having CarShield, so you can worry less about auto repairs. Call or go online right now to get CarShield for yourself. Friendly, knowledgeable, money-saving representatives are available 24 hours a day. So if your car is 20 years old or newer, just tell us the make and model of your car or truck to get an instant plan quote. In a matter of minutes, you can be covered.
I was elated that I had CarShield. I was more than happy.
It's no fun when you have a car that's broken and you can't pay for it to get it fixed.
Here's how CarShield works. When your car needs repair, you take it to your favorite mechanic or even your dealer, and CarShield gets them paid directly. That's why CarShield is America's #1 auto protection provider.
CarShield is just the best thing to take away the fear that when something is going to go wrong with your car, because it will.
कितने लाख का इंश्योरेंस है बस 3-4 लाख का क्या इंश्योरेंस हो रहा है आग नहीं सही करो उसके और वो बिल ला जरा बिल अरे बिल ला भगवान का तो माता लिखा तू इस बिल बुला पहले कितने का है बिल हाँ तो बिल ला तो बिल तो ला कितना बिल कटा का